Welcome, patrons. Okay, so it's been almost a year since my last update video, so we are in need of doing this, and I've kind of been putting it off because, I do content so infrequently now. I want to have, real videos and not update videos, but the update videos are important anyway. But because, 2020 was, mostly sparse on the channel due to a new baby and the new novel coming out, which took the place of other videos, whatever. Instead of a seasonal update, this is just going to be pretty much the whole of 2020. Also, I'm not going to be updating the trailer videos because I think it'll be much more fun to do those when the game actually comes out and we can debunk all of our theories. So with that, let's get on with it. Blue Wraith. Chamberlain of the Grey says, bit of a correction on Tevinter classes. Freed slaves do not become soperati, but liberati. They are not citizens and cannot join the military, but can join a circle of magi, if a mage. So what the slaves were not promised just freedom, but also citizenship. I mean, yeah, I'm not really sure if this is a correction, but just more of an explanation on how good of a deal the slaves were getting, but they're right. Normally, freed slaves were just not owned in the Imperium, and they could do some apprenticeships and, be a mage in the Circle of Magi, and even own some land, but they really weren't a part of Tevinter in the eyes of Tevinter. Those that actually took this deal would have their whole family be citizens who could do actual paid work in Tevinter society, and vote and do all sorts of things, so this was a wonderful deal. So no wonder these men just died for this terrible cause. Flowers of Sakura says, great vid as always, happy face. I might add something about Kase. As written in the comic, his name has an accent on the E that changes the pronunciation to something like Kase, kind of like June and Junet. As natal French, I just couldn't ignore, sorry. Please don't ignore it. I am terrible with French. Might be, minus Scandinavian languages, easily the one I have the most problem pronouncing, so thank you for the correction. Eleni Zinova. Priest Knight 5 says, correction, Kinloch Hold was made by the Avar with the help of the dwarves. Tevinter simply took it. Okay, so I love these types of corrections because both of us are right. So in the video, I mentioned that the Ferelden Circle Tower was built by Tevinter because Lake Calenhad was rumored to have been blessed by Razakael. This information I got from the Lake Calenhad Codex entry. Meanwhile, over on the wiki, it mentions what this comment says. Now, the downside is that the wiki doesn't cite its source, but I was able to find it anyway. Or at least one version of it. This might have actually been in other places, maybe even in the game, but I couldn't necessarily find it. Maybe it's there. I don't know. But in the special edition Dragon Age Origins Prima Guide, it has a small section of lore that you can read about. And here is what it says on the Ferelden Circle Tower. I'm not going to read this entire thing out because it's basically what the comment says. But what's interesting about these two lore facts is that while they conflict, they aren't retcons. Both were released around the same time for Dragon Age Origins, and it's more likely that the two conflicting stories is really just an editing error and the result of people filling in backstory and not knowing that it was actually already filled out somewhere else. At this moment, I can't actually tell you what the truth is because they're kind of equally true. Kaz says, David Gator stated in a Gamers for Grocery streams that he took part in that the whole Eleni thing was never meant to lead anywhere. It was just a cool flavor for the tower, I guess. But he also said sometimes things like these get picked up in the future, so it'd be nice if we found another reference to her in the next game. I believe he actually also said something similar in his retrospective streams for the Summerfall Studio playthrough, but I'm not going to sit through all that to find the exact clip. Sorry, guys, but I know it exists. But yeah, this is what I had assumed to be true, given a cheeky response from a thread he posted years ago, but it's actually good to have the truth out there. Dragon Age Legends. Just a Raya, I think? I think they had to make a soul to make a golem. Do Darkspawn other than the old gods have souls? Okay, so you're right that they do need something. In Golems, they use the soul of a dwarf, and in the case of the Harvester in Golems of Amgarak, where a mage and some dwarves try to replicate the golem process, they use the spirit of the fate in castless bodies for some reason to create the Harvester, and that's a whole nightmare we're not going to get into. But this is where this question kind of takes a sudden and surprising turn into when life begins, which is kind of a heated debate. We're going to lightly gloss over this, so hang tight. Okay, so the whole deal with the archdemon slaying is that it needs to be a Grey Warden to kill it, as its soul takes over the body of the Warden. But a soul cannot be forced onto another soul, so both end up dying in the process. This isn't a problem with Darkspawn, however, so one would assume that they either A, don't have souls, or B, are willing. The sudden turn here is at what does this mean for the Dark Ritual? Does little embryo Kira not have a soul yet? Which, if that is the case, then his actual soul coming into him would then kill them both? But this is obviously not what happens in Inquisition, as when a soul is taken out, Kieran is a normal boy, so the embryo must already have a soul, just one that doesn't have much of a will yet, and just kind of goes along with it, is my guess. Now, jumping to Awakening, when the Darkspawn are freed of the calling, they do have personalities. Sort of. Some do, at least. But then it would be safer to assume that Darkspawn do have souls, but the calling is so strong that they are always willing. This might also be the case of Grey Wardens and Corypheus. The Grey Wardens were willingly following his orders, so while they had souls, they were okay with, well, this happening. So, in short, I personally think they might have souls, but this is a theory and I have no idea if it would actually work or not, or if that's even the intent. Dumat. Thiago Nomer. Knomer? Oh, goodness. I'm butchering this, and I think this might be your real name or something. I'm so sorry. There is also the Sentinel armor set in Dragon Age Awakening. It's said to have belonged to the Warden who killed Dumat, so Dumat was killed by a Warden in history at least. It's interesting because it doesn't look like other Grey Warden gear at all. How the hell it ended up in Ferelden, I have no idea. And then I say, oh my god, I've used that armor so many times and I completely forgot it's tied to Dumat and the Warden that supposedly killed him. Fuck. Thanks. And another update as I'm pinning this comment in the video, I mentioned that I couldn't find a source for the verses of Dumat. Constance on my Discord was able to find that it's from Paying the Ferryman, the Calpurnia short story. Not much more to add than what I say here, but while at face value this could poke a hole in the Andraste's old got baby theory, the armor never states what happened to the Warden, so there is still a possibility. Really the only thing we get from the armor is that the Warden perhaps having a gothic flair, that they lost their armor, and that they existed. Now, the commenter also says that they don't know why it looks so different. Now, at this point of time, and I mean like not in like in lore, but actually in the game that we have, they didn't actually have a set armor for the Grey Wardens in mind. So in an alternate reality that they did actually implement a Grey Warden armor that might have what it was supposed to look like, it just didn't exists in. Also keep in mind that this would have been like the very first Grey Wardens, and with the world being absolutely torn up as they were, they might have not actually had armor yet. Or this one guy just, was a rebel. I mean, like, does your Warden wear Warden armor? Probably not, right? So maybe they just wanted to be cool and have that gothic flair. Aulis Vara says, Paragon of Dukin's letter to his wife, Codex Entry the Blights, confirms that the Darkspawn were around before Dumat woke up, so he definitely didn't create them, and then links to the Codex. So I honestly don't read at all how this means that the Darkspawn were created before Dumat rose. I guess you could say that the part where Dukin mentions that the Horde didn't seem to have a plan before, and now are marching with Dumat is that, but I don't think that confirms it, it just hints at it. It honestly could go either way for me. The writers really could easily say that Dumat wanted them to cause chaos in the Dwarven Kingdom and then march in unison in Topside. But maybe for you, this is just what it meant. I just didn't pick up that, so we can't really say either way, though. Kristen Stourman says, was Andraste not born in Ferelden / would become Ferelden? And was Dumat not slain somewhere in Tevinter or the Anderfels? I mean, would that not need some serious planning to be done over such large distances? Well, I guess Andraste's mother could have been up there around the time of the final battle and then give birth in Ferelden 9 months later. So I didn't really go too much into the theory in the video because that really wasn't what it was about, and it's kind of this huge nebulous thing. But this is one of the critiques I've heard of it. Her mother was from a tribe of what would later become Orlais, so I mean, maybe she traveled up there. It is closer than Ferelden, technically. And slavery under the Tevinter Imperium was a thing, so maybe, and like Andraste was a slave in the Tevinter Imperium at one point. But we don't know much about her birth, so I really can't say for certain. So this is a good thing to keep in mind. I really can't debunk or add anything meaningful to this other than you're asking a very good question, and I don't really have an answer. And that's all I have. Do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at @Glodathon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. Duress Sharal.